The YouTube live link is already going, just so you guys know. Christina should be posting it to the website now. Can you guys hear me okay? Great. We have to do a flag salute as part of our meeting, so hence my background. So keep in mind, I've got this meeting recording on the Zoom call here, as well as the YouTube stream that is already live. Just so you know, the YouTube stream is live as I speak.
And Nick, I apologize. I'm not sure if you saw my message, but could you give my team access to be able to share screen?
Yes. Yep. It should already be working when you guys are ready to switch to that mode.
Okay, I just didn't know if we had to be co-host to do that. Thank you, Nick.
No, it should work. I have it set up for one participant can share at a time. So
okay,
it should work fine.
Perfect. Thank you.
You are welcome. So I know Ian and I had a meeting with Alex about technology, and sometimes we experience emails coming into inboxes or being filtered out into places where we miss them. So hopefully at your end, you can see if you're getting emails to spam or not, but hopefully you've got it set up that they flow where you want them to flow.
Yep, I will be checking all of the trash, the spam, and the inbox to make sure we've got it all covered.
All right, great.
And we've already gotten a couple emails, haven't we, Ian? Okay, great.
So Megan, I don't know. I know you're sharing screen right now. So from what I can see on the live stream, it's doing what it should be doing. It has your presentation like front and center with you in the upper right. For the start of the meeting, I don't know if you can adjust your view to kind of show the group until we get our roll call done and introduce you.
Absolutely. Marianne is actually the one sharing the screen right now. So Marianne,
Okay.
stop sharing. We know that it is able to be done now. So you can stop sharing and then when I believe either Nick or Sean introduces us, you can go ahead and start sharing again.
That'd be great.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Just a reminder to those of you joining now, we are rolling live on YouTube. For those of you that may be watching from home, we'll get started here in a few minutes.
So my clock says 7 o'clock. I don't know about your guys.
Yes.
Yes, okay. We'll give it one more minute for people to get in.
Just got a request for the link, Ms. McCann, so I'm sending it now.
Okay. Okay, so I think we should get started. We're going to salute the flag first. So Nick has a flag nicely displayed on his screen. So we're going to salute it. Everyone can stand. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of
of the United States of America
and
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. McLaughlin, could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Salmon,
Here.
Ms. Singh,
Here.
Ms. Light,
Here.
Mrs. White,
Here.
Ms. Schaefer,
I think she had a conflict.
Mr. Khanna, Mrs. Gray,
Here.
Ms. Hira,
Here.
Mr. Markarian,
Here.
Mr. Syatt,
Here.
Ms. Fox,
Here.
Mrs. McCune,
Here.
Madam President.
Thank you. And I think I see Mr. Khanna on there.
Thank you.
So we're running this as a public meeting, so I'm going to read the statement of public notice, and then after that, we're going to have our presentation. So this is a special meeting of the Board of Education. The notice of time and place were provided, and copies of that resolution were forwarded to the official newspapers as designated by the Board of Education and to the township clerk. And a copy of the notice was posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education offices in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. We very much welcome input from the public. Because this is a virtual meeting, public comment will be handled as follows. When you're ready to make a public comment, join the Board of Education meeting via the Zoom link posted on the district webpage, specifically for public comment. Please plan for your participation in the meeting by turning your camera and microphone on, dressing appropriately, maintaining a proper background setting for your camera's view, be in a quiet space, and it's recommended that you may want to wear headphones to avoid any feedback. Step 2, you will be placed in a queue and admitted to the meeting when it's your turn to make a public comment. Again, you must monitor the Zoom call to be aware of when it's your turn to make public comment. The live stream of the board meeting is not real time, but the Zoom call is. Once you see that you're admitted to the Zoom call, it'll be your turn to make public comment. So just to clarify, we're going to be having our presentation, and you guys are watching it on live stream at home, the members of the public. And then later, when it's time for public comment, would be when you go to the Zoom meeting. So you don't need to go into the Zoom meeting until later. Let me just finish reading it. So when you're going to go in later for public comment, you would mute the live stream as soon as you're admitted to the Zoom meeting so that you don't hear the audio from both the live stream and the Zoom at the same time. And then begin your public comment by stating your name and address, and limit your public comment to 3 minutes. And then after you finish your public comment, please exit the Zoom meeting so the next person waiting can make a public comment. So you'll see that your public comment will be heard on the live stream of the board meeting some minutes after you've made your public comment on Zoom. There's a little bit of a lag. Please understand that the public comment portions of our agendas are not structured as question and answer sessions, but rather they are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. The board may or may not respond to public comments. Any board responses to public comments will generally be addressed during board forum or during a committee report. That's in a regular meeting. Tonight is a little bit different. Please be courteous and mindful of the rights of others when providing comments. Comments may not be abusive, obscene, threatening, or irrelevant. Please understand that students and employees have specific legal and privacy protections. The board is not permitted to respond in public to comments about students and employees. Please also understand that the board will not be responsible for the content of comments made by board members. By not board members or members of the public. Members of the public are cautioned that they are commenting at their own risk, and any personally directed statements they make may subject them to legal liability to the affected individual. So tonight we're going to have a presentation from our consultants, Us Squared, and then the board members may have a chance to ask a few questions, and then we're going to let them answer questions that are getting sent into the email address that was provided. So if you have questions about the presentation, that's how you should send them. You should send them to equityaudit@bernardsboe.com, and then they will be able to view those questions and answer them. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Us Squared.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Fucciarelli, and we're excited to be with you today. Now, as we go ahead and get into this presentation, I'd like us to just do a quick overview of what will actually be covered. So what will actually be covered today, we're going to start by introducing our team, and then we're going to go ahead and jump into just an overview of what actually is going to be happening within our work. And then we're going to talk about how you can get involved with that. And then we're going to have an opportunity to answer any questions like you shared or like was already said. So I'll go ahead and start by introducing myself. My name is Megan Fucciarelli, and I am the founder and CEO of Us Squared. Now, CEO stands for Chief Empowerment Officer. We believe in empowering all of the communities that we work with to ultimately be the change that they wish to see in the world. I am a former educator and have been in the education world for quite a few years now, and very excited to bring Bernards Township on as our next partner in this work to truly bring a change for all of your stakeholders. I'm going to go ahead and introduce or pass it over to Leanne now.
Hi, my name is Leanne Crouch. I am the Chief Opportunity Officer here at Us Squared, and I'm excited to be a part of the equity audit that we're holding. My role in that will be as a co-facilitator, extending skill set in the focus group and asking questions of stakeholders. I'm going to pass this on over to Marianne now.
Good evening. My name is Marianne Alt, and I'm the Director of Programming at Us Squared. And I'm excited to be a co-facilitator with Leanne because I'm going to get a chance to talk to all of you during those focus groups, as well as work with the district office at CES, Client Engagement Specialist, meaning that I help make everything go smoothly. And now you're going to hear from Ian.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ian, and I am the Training Engagement Specialist with Us Squared. For the purpose of this equity audit, I will be in the role of the data analyst. So as we receive information through the survey that will be crafted and sent out for the equity audit, I will be a part of compiling that data and looking it over, finding different trends, examining what that information might mean for the district. So now that you have met the team that is here tonight, let's get to know Us Squared as an organization. So who is Us Squared? We are an equity consulting company. We focus our work in on JEDI work, which stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. We believe that if you start with justice, it leaves less room for a need for apology as we approach the difficult conversations around equity, diversity, and inclusion. Our team is comprised of many different members and consultants who have expertise in several different areas. We have educational backgrounds, we have law enforcement backgrounds, all sorts of different people are a part of the Us Squared team. And when we think about our team, we like to look at it as a large collective. That is why we have this mosaic of our team members. Our different backgrounds and experiences really highlight who we are and what we do. And it's why we're really excited to be here with Bernards Township because we want to bring that collective to you all. So now I want to hand it over to Leanne, who will discuss the goal of this equity audit with you.
So our next question that we get asked a lot is, what is the goal of an equity audit? Our goal is to reflect and assess the current reality. Sometimes what we believe is happening is not what others see is happening. When we're going through the equity audit, our goal is to not only assess what is actually happening in current time, but to also give recommendations about how you can contribute to grow and continue to provide a sense of belonging to your stakeholders. Marianne?
So the next question that we're asked is, what exactly are we discussing, or what is the focus of the equity audit? And within Bernards Township, we have identified 3 areas that we'll be looking at. First of all, we'll be looking specifically at stakeholder culture and climate, how people see what's going on in the district, and how people feel about what's happening in the district. We'll then take a look at pedagogy and critical practices. And this means that we're looking at what is actually happening. So we'll look at culture within the classroom, how students and teachers interact through language and procedures. We're looking at family and community engagement. How are people interacting with the schools in the district? And we're looking at instruction. How do teachers deliver content to their students? And how inclusive are they when they're delivering that instruction? And we're looking at teacher leadership or staff leadership. How much professional development or professional knowledge is already embedded in the district as a whole? And then the last piece that we'll be looking at are the social emotional learning competencies. And for everyone's reference, we look at the collaborative for academic and social emotional learning competencies, also known as CASEL. And when we look at these things, we'll be doing it in a variety of ways, which Megan will be sharing with you next.
Thank you so much, Marianne. And as we go through this, I'm not sure if anyone else has noticed, but there's a lot of questions that are involved in equity audits. And we really try to make sure that we not only answer those questions in response to people asking them, but that we're also proactive in answering some of those questions. So the purpose of tonight is to really try to provide as much clarity as possible and really start this process off on a positive note of gathering feedback and knowing that we're all here to build the best foundation for the students within Bernard's. So who exactly will be included in the equity audit? Well, we kind of include everyone. We start our work in the district office before moving into the elementary schools. As a group, we decided as a township and as a school district that we would look at elementary schools together, which is a very common practice when doing equity audits. We will then move into the middle school and then the high school. Now, if you're paying really close attention to the words I'm choosing, I say we'll have a chance to speak with, to meet with. We do that through focus groups. All of our focus groups will be held virtually, and we will hold those focus groups with all of the stakeholders. And when we say stakeholders, we're including the students, the parents, the staff, both instructional and non-instructional, and board and community members. So anyone who has a relationship with Bernard's Township, we want to hear from. So Leanne, what are we talking about next? What question are we answering next?
All right, well, the question I think would be on a lot of people's minds is how they can get involved in the equity audit. First of all, you can complete the survey. The surveys will be going out later this month, and we recommend and ask that everyone in Bernard's Township community complete the survey. And we will provide 3 different surveys. We will provide one for elementary students. We will provide one for the middle and high school students. And then the third will be for the adults of the community. And we would like all of you to complete the survey and get those back to us. The next thing that you can do, if you're willing to be involved and want to be involved in the equity audit, and to be part is to be part of the focus group interview. Within the survey, there'll be an opportunity to express any interest that you have in being a part of that focus group. So if you would like to do that, we encourage you to complete the survey as soon as possible so that we can go ahead and get you scheduled into the focus group. There is limited space there, so that's why we're encouraging you to get it filled out and get it back to us as soon as possible. If you're wanting to be a part of the focus group, but maybe you're not able to due to time, or you have too many, we have too many people available and we don't have enough space and we're not able to fit you into a focus group, we encourage all of you to email us with questions at equityaudit@bernardsboe.com. This is an email address that is monitored by our team. It is a Bernard's email address. That is so your email recognizes it and doesn't send it off into a separate outside folder. And at the same time, we want you to know that this is kept fully and completely confidential for just our team, and that the information will only be viewed by our team in its raw form. And that's so that we can use that information to integrate it into our report, into our findings that we present at the end of this entire process. And so Marianne has more information for you on equity audits. So
you might be wondering, if I'm going to get involved, when is all this actually going to happen, or when do we get these things? So you will receive that stakeholder survey at the end of April, and it will be open for about a month for you to be able to answer all those questions. Following that, starting in late May, early June, we will be holding the focus group interviews. And all of those interviews will be held before the end of the school year. And then over the summer, our team will be working on summarizing the feedback that we have gotten, writing up a report, and that final report will be presented in October. And so Megan, I will pass it back to you for the last question.
Great, thank you so much, Marianne. So the last thing we want to just ask is we want to know what questions we can answer that maybe we did not answer. What questions do you have about the process itself? And also make sure that you have access to the email address. If you are watching via live stream right now or via YouTube, then we ask that you go ahead and email us at equityaudit@bernardsboe.com. We do have people on the call right now who are checking that email. So they are going to be ready to make sure that we're listening to any of your concerns. But at this point, I would just like to start with the board with whatever questions you might have, and then we can go ahead and move on to any community questions we have. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and stop sharing our screen so we can go back to facial view. And all right, what questions can we try to answer for you while we're seeing if there are any questions from the community? I am going to tend to think that you might have asked a lot of questions.
Yeah, I feel like I asked my questions already.
I was gonna say.
I guess I'll just ask a couple of questions I've already previously asked. Can you just tell us a little bit more about how the focus groups work in terms of like they're going to be broken down? I assume like there'll be a middle school student type focus group, and when those would occur.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the question. So the way we do focus groups is once we schedule the days that we will be working with the individual groups. So if we're working with the high school, we will designate what day that is. And in that time frame, we will work with the building administration or whoever is designated as our point person to schedule the day of interviews. We will have a set time just for students, a set time just for parents, a set time for different staff members, and we will always meet with the administration as well. But we will meet with every stakeholder group separately. The reason for that is we want to make sure that we're allowing all voices to be heard. And we all know that sometimes when different voices are in the room, or maybe a supervisor or our parent is in the room, we don't speak as openly. So we want to make sure that we allow everyone the opportunity to share their thoughts and to share their feedback. The focus groups we try to limit to no more than 15 people. Our ideal group is between 10 and 12, but we can go as high as 15. And for student groups, we will often go a little bit higher just because we want to make sure that they have other people around them to feel more comfortable for the conversation. But we do have an opportunity to speak to multiple stakeholders, and we do that at each of our schools or each of our school age groups. So the high school will have a student group, the middle school will have a student group, and the elementary will have a student group. We also make sure that there's a cross-representation of different demographics. So we will make sure that the special ed population is included, the English language learner population is included, gifted or AP classes and different populations are included in all of the stakeholder groups. And that's why we come out and do this initial push and initial meeting to make sure that everyone says, hey, I want to be talked to, and gets included in the interview process.
A follow-up question to that. Several people have already expressed concern to us about how students or adults with disabilities could participate in the survey should the format of it not be really accessible to them. So is that something that you can work with us on?
Absolutely. So we offer a couple different options with that. Depends upon the modifications that are needed or that would be helpful, or the accommodations that would be helpful. If it is a literacy issue or a vision issue, we can definitely do an auditory survey and interview piece. If it is more of a comprehension issue around different pieces, we can absolutely work through that as well. But we offer both individual surveys that we can do if there's someone who needs some extra support. All we ask is that they would email us, or if they're not able to email us for any reason, reach out to a contact at the school, and then someone at the school can reach out to us so that we can contact them directly.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other board members have questions? Do you want to look and see if people have emailed in questions?
I don't have a question from the audience yet. We have a couple comments that have come through, but nothing for the board meeting per se. Ian just reminded me as well, the format that we use for all of the surveys, we actually use Google Forms, and that allows for reader assistance as well. So thank you for that reminder, Ian. And one of the comments we will forward to you as a board as well. The question is around some of the back-end decision-making pieces. So I thought that I would forward that to you.
Could you possibly read those comments out aloud just so that the entire community of Breathe is engaged could hear them, just in case they have the same comment or anything else, or is it not appropriate?
What I will do is I'm going to cut and paste it into a chat, and then we can decide, just because I don't feel comfortable making that decision. Because it is really a school, not necessarily about the process of the equity audit. Let's see. The other question I will go ahead and put right now is, will there be an analysis of current curriculum? For example, looking for biases or outdated language or ideas in textbooks or coursework, or a under or unrepresentation of BIPOC authors in ELA at the middle and high school levels. So I'm going to ask the board if you would like me to answer that from our angle. I know that Sean and Kristen have both been involved in those conversations with us. Would you like us to answer that, or would one of you like to answer that from a district perspective?
Why don't you go first and then they can chime in and add on?
Sure. So what we do is we have a fully inclusive equity audit process that we allow districts to really look at and see what the best pieces would be and what the best really allocation of resources would be. In speaking to Bernards, we chose to focus on culture, climate, the actual classroom culture and pedagogy, and then social emotional learning. There was a discussion to not include the curriculum per se. That does not mean we will not look at it. It simply means that we will not do a deep dive into the curriculum because you have a full department who does a lot of work around curriculum. So what we will do is, in our conversations, in our focus groups, in our surveys, we will absolutely take a look at the curriculum if it comes up in conversation and if people bring those conversations to the forefront. But we are not doing a full deep dive into every lesson that is offered through Bernards. Did I miss anything or misrepresent anything with that, Kristen or Sean?
No, I think that captures our discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just hop in? I understand that some people are thinking they're supposed to come into the Zoom waiting room to ask their question. And the way that we had decided to do this was, if there are questions for the consultants or questions about the audit, we were having people email them to the equityaudit@bernardsboe.com address. And then public comment at the end will be on whatever topic, because this is a public Board of Ed meeting. But we'd like the comments or questions about the equity audit to get emailed, because then they'll have them to keep, in all of their data about what questions and comments people had, if that helps anyone.
I appreciate you providing that perspective, Rob. And that's exactly what we hope for, is that we're able to keep track of everything that comes through and all of the responses and questions and concerns that people have. So thank you for that.
I mean, really, if the question is just as simple as, I'm still confused what this whole thing is about, I don't get it, that's good feedback, because that means that clearly people are confused and they don't know what the whole thing is about. So it doesn't have to be a very specific question that people can send in. Jen,
Just repeat the email address, since there were some people that were
equityaudit@bernardsboe.com. So equity audit is all one word, equityaudit@bernardsboe.com.
And we also have, a couple other pieces with the curriculum. We also allow the survey that we send out, there is space for open-ended comments, number one. Number two, focus groups. And then number three, we have the email address. So if there are any comments that people are thinking of, or burning questions or concerns, they can absolutely bring that to any of those avenues and go from there. Our end goal for the district, is to be able to assess what your current reality is, and really to bridge that gap of what we think we're delivering and what other people in the district, whether it's our students or our parents or our staff, are actually feeling or delivering or receiving in the district. We want to make sure that your vision and your mission of seeing true success for all of your students is actualized and realized. So as an end result, not only will you receive the report of findings, we will also provide recommendations for you, as well as next steps and ways that you can move forward. And one of the other pieces that came through was the idea of really who have we worked with and what does this look like? We actually have worked with quite a few districts in New Jersey and in the New England area. We sign a very strong non-disclose agreement that's actually in yours as well. We will not tell anyone else that we work with Bernards unless they do a Google search and find out that we do. So we're not going to disclose exactly which school districts we've worked with. At the same time, we will tell you that we've worked with multiple districts in New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania area. And our end result with the equity audit is not only to tell you what you have currently going well, but also areas you could grow and improve and all of those pieces. Okay, so that is our goal. And then it is a long-term relationship if you choose to continue, where we guide you through the process and we empower you. That's why my name is Chief Empowerment Officer. My job is to empower all of you to continue to do this work long after we leave and provide you some recommendations and suggestions. One of the other questions, we're getting some questions now. Let's see, you spoke a bit about the focus groups, but I was wondering how many total focus groups will be conducted. For example, is it one focus group with 12 participants for elementary, middle, and high school? So we will actually we will see when the survey comes out, we will be putting out a solicitation form for people who are interested in the focus groups. Depending on how many people are interested from which stakeholder groups, we will determine how many groups of each stakeholder group we offer. We only have 5 different stakeholder groups, and we have more than an opportunity to meet with 5 groups. So for example, if we have a lot of students, but not as many parents or staff members, we might have 2 or 3 groups of students that we meet with. If we have a lot of parents and not a lot of other stakeholders, then we might meet with 2 or 3 parent groups at each of the age levels. We will look at how many people are interested to determine what direction we go in and how many groups we have. We have allocated a full day at the middle school and high school and just under a full day at the elementary schools. I'm sorry, switch that and reverse that because we're doing elementary schools together. Elementary schools we have a full day with. Middle school and high school we have a little bit less than a full day with because we're only doing one school at that time. All right, let me go to the next question. Will parents be able to review questions students see beforehand? So all of the surveys will go out and we absolutely encourage parents to look at that survey with their students if they would like to. At the same time, we do ask that the students do the questions on their own and answer the survey on their own. The reason for that is I'm a parent myself, and I know that my son might answer questions differently if I'm looking over his shoulder. Just so that all of you are aware, the K-5 survey is actually very age appropriate. It has smiley faces and thumbs up and thumbs down. So it's very friendly and kind for the younger students. And then the 6-12 is more appropriate for our older students. But they are all developmentally appropriate and age tested. But the survey questions are there through the survey piece. The next one, how long have we as a company been in existence? So we have over 1,400 years of experience on our team. I've been doing the work for over 26 years, and we have been incorporated for just over 6 years. So we have been incorporated as a business for just over 6 years. How many minority employees or Asian employees do you employ? So we use the term marginalized, but I'm assuming that you're looking just at race by the way the question is worded. We actually have over 60% of our staff who identify as part of a marginalized population, just in regards to race. That does not include other marginalized groups. How many schools have you done a survey for and where have they been located? So all of our equity audits, which a survey is part of an equity audit, all of our equity audits have been within the contiguous US. We have serviced 32 states, and I would have to look exactly at the exact location, but over 32 states, and we've conducted, gosh, Ian, would you say close to 50 equity audits at this point? I'd have to look at exact numbers. We don't keep that at the tip of our tongue, but I can look that up if you'd like. Just send us an email and we'll look that up for you. Define exactly what we mean by equity. So equity in its simplest form is they're asking for a definition without buzzwords or catchphrases. It means access to opportunity. That's all that means. So if we are providing equity or equitable resources, we want to make sure that we are providing access to opportunity so that everyone has the chance to be successful. Whatever that takes, whatever that means, we want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to be successful. What does an equity audit mean? An equity audit is simply an assessment of what exactly is happening in your district and what others see as happening in your district, and then bridging the gap between the two. Now the questions are really coming in. I'm trying to keep up with them all and not just overflow with words. I'm going to stop for a moment and just see if anyone on my team has anything they'd like to add from what I've shared while I get caught up on some of these. I know, Leanne, you just got off of another equity audit that we did. Was there anything that you would like to add to this that maybe you could expound on?
Equity audits are a great way to look at overall all the things and see all the pieces of the puzzle and how they're interacting or not interacting. And then we can bridge that gap to bring more opportunities and make sure they're equal across the board.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that addition. Can you describe in more detail how the focus groups will have a reflective representation of various members of each community? So the interest form that we will ask people to complete to share that they are wanting to be a part of the equity audit or part of the focus group for the equity audit will ask some basic demographic questions. It will be a cross-representation as much as possible to make sure that we have a solid representation across multiple demographics. At the same time, we need to make sure we have volunteers in order to have a diverse representation. So we strongly encourage everyone who is interested in speaking to us that is what we need is for all of you to participate and to be as involved as possible. If you are not chosen to be a part of an equity audit focus group, or you are just not available at the time that's allotted, then please do send us an email with any of your thoughts and comments. One of the other questions that just came through is, will there be evening sessions for parents or community members that work during the day? That is all determined when we see who is available for the interviews and what times they are available for those interviews. We have done some where we start midday and go a little bit later or early into the evening. And we have others that we start a little bit earlier, so people can even join us at maybe a 7 a.m. meeting, if that works better. But we try to make sure that we are as flexible as possible. And again, if someone is not able to join us for the actual focus group interview, they would hopefully be able to send us an email or just get a hold of someone to be able to have a conversation with. The next question that came in is, what happens after you give your recommendations? So that is really what comes out of our hands. We provide the report to the board and to the community. Once we provide that report, we absolutely provide recommendations and let you know what we might be able to help you with if you're interested. At the same time, there is no requirement, obligation, or contractual responsibility to continue with Us Squared after we deliver the report. So after we deliver the report, we will deliver a roadmap and recommendations for next steps. And then it will be up to the board or up to designated parties to be able to really make sure that that report or the actions represented in the report get executed. And then how do we know if our recommendations have been implemented? We will tell you that 100% of our clients that we have done equity audits for have continued with us afterward, either on a full-time capacity to support with professional development and implementation, or as a coaching relationship. So we can tell you that all of our clients have implemented at least some of the recommendations. We provide some pretty lofty recommendations. So we are giving you the heads up now that you might not want to deliver on all of the recommendations. There will be a lot there. Our last report of a school district your size was close to 800 pages. So there's a lot of information that will be gathered. And we want to give you the forethought to know that it's okay to not do everything all at once. True change that is sustainable takes 3 to 5 years. So I'm going to put a couple more comments. Let's see. Anything that I believe is more school related, I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat for the board. And then you can let me know if you want me to go ahead and speak them out or not. Will you be looking at how teachers treat students based on race? And will you be looking at how teachers treat students and interact with them? So we will not be doing classroom observations. At the same time, we will be speaking to students, and we will be catching the demographics and looking at the different comments that are made. We will also be asking those questions in the focus groups a little bit more pointed as well. Do you see other people treated differently? We will not ask specifically, are people treated differently based on race? But we will say, do you see some students being treated differently? And why do you think they are treated differently? Let's see. Who develops and formats the questions on the surveys? Our team develops and formats the questions for the focus groups and for the surveys. We do provide a bank of survey questions, and what we do is after tonight's conversation, if anything else comes out, either through the email or through questions that are asked, then we will be finalizing the surveys and the focus groups questions, and we will be getting that over to the district to be able to implement. But we will be the ones creating all of them. And then the board will also review that survey as well. And let's see. I love this question. So we have a question here about, will you tackle LGBTQ topics? We do cover all identity groups within our work. That includes race, that includes gender, that includes sexuality. We talk about all of those identities. Now, when I say we talk about those identities, we do not do any teaching or curriculum around those identity groups. What we do is we open up the conversation and we make sure that that is included as part of an equity audit. Diversity and equity is much more than race. And we want to make sure that all identity groups feel welcomed in the conversation. And if they do not, then we want to know why not. Because true inclusion is not just having people come to the conversation, but having them feel comfortable and safe to share their voice in a conversation. So we will absolutely be doing that. The question, what do we do with this information? Is it given to any third party? No, the equity audit is exactly your information. This information is not sent anywhere. This information is not sent to any third parties. Everything is kept strictly confidential between ourselves and then consolidated into a report for the Board of Education to be able to disseminate as you see fit. How will you tackle critical race theory in your audit? Will it be mentioned, and how will you explore the ideology behind it? We do not tackle critical race theory specifically, especially because we are not looking at the curriculum practices. Critical race theory is a theory. It is not a practice. It is not something that is taught necessarily unless you are in a theory class. Now, if someone brings up critical race theory, our job during interviews is to say thank you for your feedback. We are not there to argue with anyone. We are there to make sure that everyone's voices are heard, that their voices are listened to and documented in our processes. Have we ever performed an audit of a district and felt that it was doing things right and offered no long-term solutions or recommendations? So I will tell you this, we have absolutely done equity audits where districts are doing some wonderful, phenomenal things. At the same time, in the true spirit of education and in the true spirit of growth, continuous improvement is evident in every system. No matter how phenomenal a system it is, there are always places that we can grow. We at Us Squared also go through an internal review process where we ask questions of what can we do better? What can we do differently? It is always about growth. It is not about saying that someone is bad or good. It is about saying, what can we do better? Because our students ultimately deserve that. And I know that all of you in the community believe that. So our job is to point those out from an outside lens as a neutral party. We do not come in with findings before we speak to anyone. We make sure that everyone is included in the conversation, and we provide a third lens or an outside look to really synthesize that information for you. Do you get involved with recommendations for staff training? Yes, we absolutely will recommend that if it is a finding. So when we are going through our process, one of the things we look at is teacher leadership and foundational knowledge of information. So we will look at all of those pieces, and if we see that there is a gap, we will offer that as a recommendation. Quite a few of our equity audits do result in some form of training, whether it is community training or student training, like mediation training, or staff training, professional development. But we often offer some form of training as one of our recommendations. And there was also a question about whether or not staff receive cultural diversity training. I'm not sure if you're asking about Bernard staff, but that will be one of the questions we ask is which professional development or what professional developments have you received since being a part of Bernard staff? Let's see, reading through these. How will students receive the surveys? That is a question that I will work, or our team will work through with the district and with the board to ensure that we're following all of your policies and procedures for the survey. Our surveys are all electronic. Excuse me, I'm on the tail end of whatever this is in my throat, so I'm glad we're virtual today. But the surveys will be distributed. They are electronic. So we do ask that they are completed electronically if at all possible, but that will be distributed after we have the conversation with the Bernard's district office and with the board to make sure we're following any policies and procedures and protocol. Okay, a question, please explain SEL and what does that mean? So SEL is social emotional learning. Social emotional learning is how we interact with one another and how we support each other within the emotional categories and with the social categories. Now, what's really great about CASEL, which are the competencies we use, it is CASEL, C-A-S-E-L. So it is the collaborative for academic, social, emotional learning. Oftentimes when we think about learning, especially in the educational system, we really focus on the academic components. What's really critical about this is focusing on the social and emotional components, which is a phenomenal addition and why we look at those competencies. Okay. So what we try to do within that is look at how students feel, how their mental health is being impacted, either in a positive or in a negative way. There's been a lot of trauma, especially for our students, but really for all of us, especially over the last couple of years. So what we look at is how has Bernard's been able to support their students during this difficult time, or are there things that they can continue to do better? If there are still questions on that, please feel free to ask again or just let us know. As part of the diversity, do you also equally welcome viewpoints based on religious beliefs or those considered less liberal? Absolutely. I'm glad that you asked that question. So if you look at all of our work, We do not take a stance that is based on judgment or belief systems. We believe that everyone's voice brings value. One of our core principles is actually every issue counts. We do not believe in doing this work from one side of the spectrum. Now, because the word was used of less liberal, we actually follow the guidelines of not following just a liberal viewpoint or just a conservative viewpoint. We have people on our team who are very conservative in their viewpoints. What we focus on, and the reason why we say we are a Jedi firm or leading with social justice, is we believe in respect and we believe in treating humans with dignity and having that common core principle of social justice first and foremost. If we lead with social justice and treating everyone with fairness and with respect, then there is open conversation that don't lead to judgment statements or trying to make everyone fall on one side of the spectrum or another. Will you be teaching, studying, or addressing white privilege? Really great concept and really great question. Thank you so much for asking that. So first of all, we are not teaching anything during an equity audit. During an equity audit, we are here to listen and assess the current reality. Now, saying all of that, white privilege is absolutely something that we will be looking for. At the same time, we will be looking for all areas of privilege. Now, what I mean by that is society has seen the concept of privilege, has seen the concept of microaggressions and so many trigger words that are out there. What we want to do is, instead of really triggering or having those conversations that evoke defensiveness, we want to have open conversations. So we will be looking at all groups. We don't just look at one, and we do not do any training during an equity audit. An equity audit is specifically assessing someone's current reality and providing recommendations to allow for a more equitable or open environment. Let's see. How are we to know your organization is not biased or leaning toward a certain political party? So I encourage you to research. I encourage you to look at whatever you can. I also would like to let you know that, especially in the state of New Jersey, in order to do business in the state of New Jersey, we have to file paperwork that says that we are not leaning towards certain political parties, that we do not contribute information for political parties, and we do not. So if you look at our social justice work, if you look at our social media, we are not here to place judgment on either party. We are here to talk about multiple identity groups, and we are here to talk about multiple conversations. And as you can tell, we are reading all of the questions that come in that we can give you information on, because we want you to do your research and we want you to know who we are. And we want you to feel empowered to find any information you can to benefit ultimately the students and the community members at Bernard's. We are here to support you and empower you and help you. At the same time, we want to be able to work together in a partnership to do that. Let's see. How do we access the race or ethnicity numbers for the district? Those are all demographic numbers. And if the board has any additional information that they can offer, we will be collecting demographic data on the students that we survey, on the students and parents and community members that we talk to. And we will also be asking for the district demographic information so that we can do a cross analysis. But as far as I know, when I was a superintendent in the school systems, and I believe it's similar still today, that information is all public information to know what your demographics of your district are. Let's see. How will you tackle the fact that so many students in our high school struggle with mental health? That is exactly why Bernard's Township made a commitment to include social emotional learning in the school system. Okay. We wanted to make sure that we are looking very closely at social emotional learning, and that's why that was included. What about students that are depressed or have mental health issues? Will they be included in the audits? Will their issues be explored and validated in the toxic high school culture? So I just want to point out, first of all, that was a question that was written directly from an email. We try very hard not to put value judgments within our statements. So we will not say that a culture is toxic. We will not say or make value judgments around those pieces. What we will do is if students are coming to us or sharing that they're struggling, we will do everything in our power to make sure that we collect all of the information to put in a report. If anything comes to us immediately, everyone on my team are mandated reporters. If anything comes to us immediately, we will report that immediately to authorities to make sure that the mental health and physical and safety of all of your students at Bernards is taken of the utmost importance and the utmost level of security. So that is something that I wanted to make sure is very clear as well. We have a pretty long one here. Can you provide an email address for the community that is not a bernardsboe.com email address? I will speak to the board to see if they are open to providing an additional email address, and we can have that discussion. Obviously, we are easily accessible. We're a public business, so you could Google us and find us. At the same time, it would not be prudent for us to include information that does not come through the avenues that we give to you, because there's no way of confirming that that information actually came from you if it does not go to the proper email address. At the same time, we will offer that, and we have done that in the past, if there are special circumstances where we need to have things come through a different email address. We heard at a previous meeting that parents can opt their children out of completing the survey. Is that correct? All of the survey details will come out from the district. That is something that we as a company will not mandate or will not be able to answer direct questions on. That is really a deliverable piece. We want to make sure that we are compliant with all board policies and district policies. So all of the details and logistics of the surveys will come from your district as a whole. But please know that we will have the surveys ready to go, and then they will be sent out before the end of the month. How will you be exploring how Asian students are mistreated? We will be looking at how all students are mistreated. We will be asking specifically about questions around how are students mistreated or why are students mistreated? Do we see students treated differently for any particular identity group? So we hope, and again, it has to be from the students. We will not ask, or from the parents. If parents feel like that is a concern, we want to make sure that that comes out as well. We will not ask pointed questions in order not to re-traumatize any of the people involved in the conversations. But we will be open to hearing all of the conversations that come up. We have another question that came in of, I know you can't reveal schools, but can you please give specific examples of recommendations that you made to other places? So one of the recommendations we will often make that we have seen is looking at the curriculum to make sure that it provides a window, a mirror, and a sliding glass door. When we look at, and what I mean by that is a curriculum that allows every child to see themselves like a mirror, a curriculum that allows them to see the lives of other people like a window, and a curriculum that allows children to experience or to truly live the life of someone else, or to experience the life of someone else, like a sliding glass door that you step into the world of someone else. Another example that we just offered is we encouraged affinity groups, or ERGs, employee resource groups. If you're from the corporate world, you might be more familiar with that term, but affinity groups for different populations in the school system. So having groups that allow people to be a part of a group that promotes certain identities. So whether it is a Black caucus, whether it is a Black student group or an Asian students alliance, or having different student groups around LGB or LGBTQ, having those alliances and those opportunities to come together, those are things we will often recommend if we see that certain groups are not part of that conversation. Another one of the recommendations we recently made for a district that's not too far from you was to have a mentor population or mentor program. So the older students are allowed to be mentors for the younger students, and it's a 4-year program. So students who did receive a mentor in 9th grade then go through the process, and by 12th grade, they are mentors themselves. So it's a repeated 4-year cycle. That was a recommendation that we gave. That was a school that had a pretty high suicide rate. So we were able to offer that, and they've already seen some improvements just because students are saying, I knew I was going to see you today, so I wanted to make sure I came to school. So some of those are some of the recommendations. Let's see. There are some comments, not questions. Some of the comments are that the guidance counselors in the district are good, and asking us to look at the background of some of the different people on the staff, like what are the requirements for different backgrounds. And single parents are a growing demographic in the US. Will single parents be included in your audit? Absolutely, all parents will be included in the audit. And if you are not able to join us for an actual audit time that we have allocated, then we will absolutely make sure that we include the email address, and we ask that you respond or provide suggestions or comments to us directly through that. I just realized that it's getting close to 8 o'clock, and I wanted to open back up to the board members if there are any additional questions. And it looks like, Ian, have we gotten through most of the comments and questions that have come through? Whew, I'm glad I had a couple teaspoons of honey before this. I'd be coughing the whole way through.
Those were great questions.
They were great questions. I'm
I don't know
so
if they
glad.
prompted any more questions among board members, but those are great.
Yeah, very, very great questions. And honestly, it means a lot when there's a lot of questions, because it means that your community is truly embodied. And it means that your community is very involved and explain. And I don't like doing this, but this comment came through a couple times, so I want to make sure I do that. So I don't normally like to wave a sign of who is on our team, but one of the questions that came in was, can you explain how we can trust this audit when nearly every person in this meeting is white? How can your organization, the board, be trusted to fairly examine race? So what I will say to that is there is a difference between white presenting and white. One of the members on this call from our team is actually Native or Indigenous American, and one person on this call right now is actually Black. So white presenting and white are very different. And those are conversations that we can absolutely have. So yes, all 4 of us present as white people to society, as was witnessed in the question that came through, but 2 of the 4 of us are not actually white. So just to share that piece of information with you, and I'm not going to share who the 2 are because I think that just feeds into more of it. But if anyone would like to be curious enough and have a conversation, an honest conversation about it, I'm more than willing to have that conversation. But that is just one way of how we do this work, is that it's not just about how we present or what we see in a district. It's about what's actually going on underneath the surface. So I will, let's see, Robin, as board president, is there anything else that you would like us to be able to support with? Or should we let you continue with board comment? What would be best for you?
I mean, do any other board members have any questions or comments? I think this was amazing. I think you did an amazing job answering all those questions on the fly because you don't know what you're going to get. I think, we're excited about starting this process, and I think the community is very interested. I've heard a lot of people talking about it. I just encourage everyone in the community, if you think of a question tonight or tomorrow or anytime going forwards, to email them to the email address. And there's going to be lots of opportunities to discuss it going forward this spring. So thank you very much for coming to our meeting.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. And please do not hesitate to reach out if we ever can be of any additional assistance. But we look forward to starting the process soon with all of you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And for the members of the public, we do have a live public comment on Zoom because this is a public meeting and we have to do it that way. So people can come into the Zoom meeting via the link that was posted. and go into the waiting room, and we'll let you in one at a time. So you need to be paying attention on your Zoom to see when you're let in from the waiting room. So I don't know if anyone's already in there. Who's looking at the waiting room? Kristen, are you in charge of it?
I am looking in the waiting room. There were 2 people and I don't see them there now.
I think a couple people went in there originally, that wanted to
Correct.
ask questions of us.
Kristen, one's already in. One's already in.
Oh,
this
okay.
time.
Larry Rassio, right?
Yes.
There he is. Okay, you're in the meeting, Mr. Rassio. So you're able to make comment now. Thank you, Mrs. White.
I think you're muted, Larry. I think you're muted. So tell us your name and address when you come in, because we have to do it that way. Now what happened to him?
I think he dropped out. Maybe when he unmuted.
I don't know. Maybe he'll come back in.
Yeah. That's the only one.
Okay, well, we'll give him a couple minutes to see if he logs back in.
Mhm. So there is someone else in the waiting room now. It may be him, it may be someone else, but I'm going to let them in.
Okay.
Hi, Sharon. You're in the meeting now. You can unmute yourself and tell us your name and address and share your comment.
Hi, Sharon Maloney, 109 Woodman Lane, Basking Ridge. I asked several times how much this consulting service fee was going to be, and haven't heard anything. So I'm just wondering how much this is going to cost the district, or actually the taxpayers. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, we usually respond after all the public comments come in. So assuming that there's only a couple more, we should be able to answer that really shortly. So I don't know if there's anyone else in the waiting room. So if you log back out, we'll let someone else in, and then you can watch on the live stream again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Rassio came in and then went out again.
Thunderstorms like me.
Yeah, probably, maybe.
I didn't hear any thunder here.
Yeah, he's not there now. He might come back.
Okay, well, we can, I guess, respond and then wait and see if he shows up. Nick, did you want to respond?
Sure. The contract was for $40,000 funded by federal grant.
Thank you.
Oh, he's back. Give it another try. Mr. Rassio? You're in the meeting. I think you're unmuted. I don't know if you can hear us, but you can make your comment now.
Looks like he dropped again.
Nope, I'm here.
Oh,
There we go. You're here.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
My name's Larry Rassio, 234 Liberty Corner Road, Far Hills. I think what you're doing is fabulous, and the effort and the goal is fabulous. I think in this situation, it's more a solution, if I'm being honest, a solution looking for a problem. Unless the current administration and the current environment we have now isn't confident that they've put in place an environment that's all inclusive and equal opportunity. Another thing I take exception to is when you say all identity groups will be represented or something like that. You know that's impossible, right? There's an infinite amount of identity groups, right? Everything is divisible. On how this is going to improve our children's chances in the future. And I went over the website, and it says a lot of nice things. There's a lot of nice buzzwords. Things like increased attendance, reduced suspensions, decrease in bullying, improved teacher effectiveness, things like that. But are there quantitative results that you can point to that those are actually facts? That's probably a question for Ian. He's the data guy. But I need something tangible to point to say that this stuff is real. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the waiting room, Kirsten?
No, I don't see anyone in there. Nope.
Okay. So how are we doing this? Are we okay. So he can listen to any response on live stream. This is a little bit awkward doing it both ways this time, but I think it was definitely better that people were emailing all those questions, because that would have been hard to do with people coming in and out of the waiting room. That was a lot of questions. Does anyone have a response? I can respond. Yeah, I mean, people have a lot of questions about the outcomes of audits like this. I think I'm sure they vary significantly district by district in terms of what districts do with the recommendations and how they follow through. I happen to be studying a couple districts for my dissertation who went through a process, and they did it a couple of years ago and continuing on now, and they are measuring different metrics of change, whether it be disciplinary, incidents, suspensions, different wellness measures on students and stuff. So there certainly are districts who have gone through a process and measured metrics afterwards. I'm sure it varies a lot district by district. I'm trying to think of the other. Anyone else have any comments?
I'm sure we can work with us squared and ask them for what research they typically provide. I know what we look at is typically from Castle that talks about the connection to SEL and student performance.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of research out there, but yeah. Okay, so I think at this point we're up to adjournment of the meeting. Does someone want to make a motion? Kirsten and Tim seconded. All in favor? Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Take care.
Good night.